how to perform Hajj, the description of Hajj. Of course, the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, is one of the most illustrating hadiths describing the Prophet's Hajj alayhi salatu wasalam. And the scholars have spent hours and hours looking into the details and the different narrations so that they would gather what would be the most authentic way of performing Hajj. So in short, when a person wants to perform Hajj, he has to start doing this in the months of Hajj. Remember, don't come in Ramadan, because Ramadan is not part of the months of Hajj. The months of Hajj are Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, and Al Hijjah. So the beginning of Shawwal, if you come and you would like to perform Hajj, the best thing for you to do is to perform tamattu'. And that is, once you reach the miqat, you offer your ihram for umrah. And you go, you perform your umrah, you cut short your hair, and you stay in the holy shrines, go to Medina, go wherever you want, normally wearing your normal clothes, acting normally till the 8th of the Hijjah, where you assume your ihram once again for Hajj. This is mutamatti'. But if you came with the intention of Hajj alone, or combining Hajj and Umrah together, once you reach the miqat, you say labbaik Allahumma Hajj for the one doing ifrad, or labbaik Allahumma Umratan wa Hajjan for those wanting to do qiran. The one who wants to make tamattu', he already did his Umrah. So what to do? To do ihram, the sunnah is to have a full shower, ghusl, like you do ghusl to uplift a major ritual impurity. And this is a sunnah. Whether you are a male or a female, even if the female is on her menses, it is sunnah to have ghusl. Why? This is for purification and to show how much you are giving importance for this ritual. So you take your ghusl, you wear on your cologne if you're a man, and put your perfume and wear your ihram. Then you say the talbiyah, which has nothing to do with the ihram in terms of obligation. It's a sunnah. لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك. Afterwards, you continue to do this talbiyah from the moment you do your ihram until you reach Mecca. And the sunnah is to raise your voice with talbiyah if you're a male. And Ibn Abbas says we used to shout it out. So this is a ritual that everybody has to know that you're doing it. So the whole caravan is raising their voices with talbiyah, showing the people who they pass by that they're going for Hajj. And the Salaf used to love doing talbiyah in 4 places after the end of the mandatory prayers, and whenever they descend and go down a valley, or they reach up a peak of a valley, and when they meet their comrades and friends and others, so that they all exchange talbiyah. And it is highly recommended to raise your voice and repeat it over and over again. Once you reach Mecca, if you're going for your Umrah, the moment you want to start your Tawaf, your talbiyah is interrupted. If you're in Hajj, the moment you want to start throwing the first Jamarat al-Aqaba on the day of Eid, this is when your talbiyah is over for the rest of the Hajj. Also, it is highly recommended for us when we approach Mecca, because we've been traveling from the miqat to Mecca. Once we approach entering Mecca, it is recommended to have a second ghusl to clean yourself and purify yourself. So all those who are coming to Mecca and to the Haram are clean, but this is not mandatory, nor there is any expiation if you were to skip it. You've reached Mecca, enter the Masjid al-Haram and start immediately with Tawaf. Whether this is Tawaf al-Umrah if you are mutamatti', or this is Tawaf al-Qudum, whether you are doing Ifrad or Qiran, which is Sunnah. And you're not supposed to pray 2 rak'ah Tahiyyat al-Masjid. You should start with the Tawaf directly. Once you start the Tawaf, of course, there's no Talbiyah. You start before the black stone and you point at it. If you cannot kiss it or touch it, you just point at it and say Bismillah wa Allahu Akbar. This is what you say, and you do not have to say the long dua, though some scholars recommended it, but the long dua afterwards, this is not authentic. Some scholars say that it is recommended, but there is no hadith backing it up. And you go round. The first round, you make whatever dua you want. Once you reach the Yemeni corner, which is before the black stone, the sunnah is to wipe it. If you can't wipe it because it's too far or too crowded, move on. And you say between the Yemeni corner and the black stone, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And you reach the black stone and you say Bismillah Allahu Akbar, pointing at it again. All this time going around the Kaaba is to your left. You don't face the Kaaba as some people do and walk like crabs sideways. No, this is totally wrong and your Tawaf is invalid. You have to look to your left and you have to keep the Kaaba to your left and move on. And if you notice, there is an area after you pass the black stone and you pass the door, al-multazam, there is an area where there's an arc or an arch structure out of the Kaaba. But nobody goes from inside, they all go from outside. What happens if I were to go from the inside? Then your round is invalid. Why? Because this arch is part of the Kaaba and it was demolished due to some flooding. And they could not rebuild the Kaaba fully on that structure, on these foundations at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So they left it as it is. So if you go from the inside, it's like entering the Kaaba and not going around it, and this round would not be accepted. After you finish, you go to, after you finish your 7th round, 7 rounds. On the 7th round, once you reach the black stone, you don't point and say Bismillah Allahu Akbar, because this is over. You say it only in the beginning of the round, not at the end of the round. Then you go to Maqam Ibrahim. And what is Maqam Ibrahim? It's the golden structure that is found next to the standing there, where it is reported that Ibrahim stood on that rock, and some say that there are the footprints of Ibrahim on that rock. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, and take, O believers, from the standing place of Ibrahim, a place of prayer. So this ayah, you recite it after you finish your Tawaf and go to pray behind Maqam Ibrahim 2 rak'ahs, if you can, or anywhere in the Haram, reciting in the first rak'ah, قُلْ يَا الْكَافِرُونَ after the Fatiha, and the second, Surah Al-Ikhlas after the Fatiha as well. Afterwards, it's sunnah to go back and drink from Zamzam, but this was when there was a clear place for people to go to Zamzam well, because the Zamzam well was next to the Kaaba before it was covered totally now, and you cannot see it. It has a different entrance where you cannot enter it. Before it was open. So the Prophet went to Zamzam, drank from it, and poured some water of Zamzam on his head. Now we cannot do this because Zamzam is not there. So if you go to one of the water containers and do this anywhere, that would do the job, inshallah. Afterwards, you go to Safa. Khalas, we finished the Tawaf. We go and move to the Safa area. And the moment we approach the Safa area, we don't go and climb to the top of the Safa. Rather, the moment you just see it and approach it, you recite the ayah where the Prophet ﷺ used to say, indeed, As-Safa and Al-Marwa are among the symbols of Allah, to the end of the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 158. So this is where you climb the Safa, then you walk from a Safa to Al-Marwa, and between the two green monuments or the green markers, the sunnah is that you run fast. So you run as the Prophet used to do, alayhi salatu wasalam. After you reach the second marker, you walk normally until you reach Al-Marwa. Walking normally in a sort of a fast pace, but not running, of course. And without harming people. If you're gonna run and push people in front of you and harm them, no, don't run, just walk normally. Once you reach Marwa, then do the dua we've mentioned before, and then you walk once again to As-Safa. One round, second round, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. And you do this beginning from As-Safa and you end the seventh in Al-Marwa. Once you finish it, then your Tawaf and Sa'i, if you are offering Tamattu', has concluded your Umrah. So you go and clip your hair or shave it if you come way early before Hajj season begins, which is in the beginning of Shawwal. So you have the whole of Shawwal, the whole of the Qa'dah, your hair would grow. But if you come few days, then just cut it short. If you are in the state of Ifrad or Qiran, the Tawaf was voluntary, the Sa'i was of Hajj, you're still on your Ihram. Do not touch your hair and proceed and move on. After that, all the pilgrims would stay until the 8th of the Hijjah. So if you performed it 3 weeks, a month or two before the 8th of the Hijjah, you're living your normal life, business as usual. If you are in Ifrad or Qiran, you remain on your Ihram the remaining period of time until the 8th of Hijjah. On the 8th of Hijjah, those who were in the state of Tamattu', they have to take off their normal clothes, have ghusl, wear their Ihram, and say, Labbaik Allahumma Hajj. Now they have to perform Hajj. Those who are in Ifrad or Qiran, they would go to Mina in the state of Ihram. They would, if they wish to have ghusl and purify themselves, that's totally fine and acceptable without any problem. And they go to Mina on the 8th of the Hijjah. This day is called Yawm Tarwiyah. And they go there and they pray Dhuhr, Asr, shortened 2 rak'ahs, on time. Dhuhr on time, Asr on time. Maghrib 3 rak'ahs as usual, on time. Isha 2 rak'ahs on time. They spend the night, and on the 9th day of Arafat, they pray Fajr as usual, and they spend the night in Mina. Afterwards, when the sun rises on the 9th, they move from Mina to Arafat. And the sunnah is that they stay and camp in Namirah if possible, but if not, then, which is usually not, they go on to their camp in Arafat and stay there. Once it is Dhuhr time, they pray Dhuhr, 2 rak'ahs, alongside with Asr, 2 rak'ahs. So they combine between Dhuhr and Asr at the time of Dhuhr. And then they occupy their time by making dua, asking Allah for forgiveness, reading the Qur'an, and the likes. And the dua prevailing on that day is the dua that the Prophet used to say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir, until the sun sets. And as it is a day of ibadah, is it recommended that we, let's say, fast? Because this is a good deed? The answer is no. al-Fadl bint al-Harith sent to the Prophet ﷺ a cup or a mug of milk, and he drank it while on his camel on the day of Arafat, to show everyone that I'm not fasting. And this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ on the day of Arafat. Once the sun sets, the pilgrims, all of them move to Muzdalifah. They don't pray Maghrib. One would say, okay, it's sunset, let's say pray Maghrib. No, the sunnah is to move on. Once you reach Muzdalifah, you pray Maghrib and Isha combined, regardless of the time. But most likely you would reach at the time of Isha. And you pray Maghrib 3 rak'ahs, Isha 2 rak'ahs, and stay there until the break of dawn. Once the dawn breaks, then you pray Fajr at the location of Masjid Muzdalifah at the moment, which is known as Al-Mash'ar Al-Haram. So you pray Fajr and you move to the location of the masjid if possible, if they allow you to do so, if you won't be lost from the camp. This is the sunnah. And to spend the night, to spend the time there and make dua just before the sun rises until the daytime is shown, but the sun did not rise yet. And then you move from Al-Mash'ar Al-Haram in Muzdalifah, you move to Mina. Those who are sick, those who are tired, those who have issues or problems, they have the concession to leave early, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.